So the point of all this is simply this. Having a community with shared values is a very helpful concept, which helps you and I get better at what we're doing on a regular basis. What on earth makes two guys in their 80s who have two completely different careers get together and meet together? And why on earth should you even have any interest in that? There's a phenomenon going around where little old men, usually in their 60s, 70s, or even 80s or 90s, will actually get together, have coffee, share stories, and then develop and deepen relationships over it. I'm a member of a group called Romeos. Romeos stands for Retired Old Men Eating Out. And after we finished up doing that for an hour and a half, ran into two other guys, 185 and 183. And I said, okay, who are you guys? Tell me your story. One said he had been a math teacher for 40-something years, not 50-something years. He taught middle school. And it brought back memories for me, Mr. DiLorenzo, who was the basketball coach and the 8th grade teacher and taught us, from my point of view, the keys to the universe. And the keys to the universe were ratio and proportion. This is to that, as that is to this. Very handy when you're making recipes or cooking, especially if you're baking and you want to do a double batch of whatever it is you're doing. If you can relate to how much ingredients produces this amount and you want to make this amount, this is fantastic. It also goes back to G. Willikers. If you want to be financially independent to make you healthy, wealthy, and wise, if you learned about compounding, the miracle of compounding, you too could wake up and be 80-something. One was an independent real estate investor and had been for years and years, all his career. He said, I'm embarrassed to say I'm from Minnesota, but Minnesota has sure changed, but I left there in 1975. Okay, that's his story, not my story. My story is I grew up in New Jersey, started investing when I was 16. I've been doing that ever since. And for the last umpty years, about 40, I've been helping other people with that, formally, not just informally. So why should you, as a little old person, sit down and have a cup of coffee with other little old people and share stories back and forth and go over who's seeing which doctor and see how husbands and wives are getting along and see how the church is doing and discuss advanced, even estate planning techniques, God bless America. That came up too, kind of off to the side privately, since one of the guys said to me, what is your profession again? I said, yes, I'm a certified public accountant and a certified financial planner. And yes, we help people plan things. And he mentioned something he wanted to do, and I'm researching that for him. And it had to do with how all things charitable donations based on coming in to a rapid source of money. And there are several techniques for that. And I'm researching that further and asking other CPAs about that. So how to speak more slowly or deliberately so it's understandable. When folks of a certain age get together with any kind of luck, we have a habit of telling stories to each other. We also learn to speak up and speak clearly and enunciate clearly, because hearing loss, memory loss, comprehension, depreciation, or deterioration happens with a lot of people. But let's say you're lucky enough to, from the time you were a little kid, exercise, learn, be curious, be loving, be occasionally sweet and sour, because you have to learn to accept the bitter with the sweet, as my father used to say. Then you woke up one day and everybody said, are you retired? And you said, no, I'm planning on retiring about 2 weeks after I die. Everybody kind of laughs and says, gee, I'd like to see that. So, well, you'd have to live a lot longer to go see that. So what's the point of all that? I think we all have a useful purpose. I might even take up bicycle riding again, so I can volunteer with a group here in Plano that actually helps wheel around on a bicycle other little old people, to have the wind blowing through their hair and have some new adventures, or give them some new adventures so they kind of come back alive. Because physical stimulation has a habit of rejuvenating people, as long as you don't wear yourself out while you're doing it. So the point of all this is simply this. Having a community with shared values is a very helpful concept, which helps you and I get better at what we're doing on a regular basis. It goes back to the silly story that I commonly tell, that at one time I had a good-sized partner, 5'5", 255. Went out to lunch with him for a couple of years in a row and discovered I had gained about 35 pounds. How does that happen? Well, it turns out when you go out to lunch with somebody who really has not a generous appetite, but a vigorous appetite, it kind of spills off. And next thing you know, you're eating a lot more than you used to, drinking a lot more than you used to, and your horizons expand. So what do? Say, okay, I could keep doing that to keep buying bigger pants every year, or I could eat a little bit less, go out a little bit less, and decide that I'm going to go back from 185 pounds, which actually happened, down to a more reasonable 155 pounds. At the time, my objective was only to go down about 160. I was so excited at the time. I thought, oh boy, I can, God bless me, lose 25 pounds going from 85 to 160 and not look like a refugee. And no insult to refugees, all kidding aside. Anybody who can survive political unrest, seek asylum, flourish, be assimilated into the population, learn the customs and folkways of where you're living, as opposed to trying to transplant your systems and your particular hang-ups and problems, but literally be assimilated into society, which my grandparents did, my aunts and uncles did, coming from Italy and learning how to be Americans as opposed to even Italian Americans, but literally being assimilated into society. So we're going to have lawyers, actors, moms and dads, welders, firemen, policemen, business owners, business people, secretaries, entertainers, managers of restaurants, and a variety of people who grew out from all that, and lots of education over time. So what's the takeaway? If you have the desire to form a community or foster a community, it's no more complicated than simply going out to a coffee shop or a Chick-fil-A, which is what we do in Marshall, Texas. No kidding, at 7 o'clock in the morning on Tuesdays. It's right on what used to be called Plano Parkway or 555. And it reaches about 7 o'clock in the morning to about 8:30 in the morning. It's a bunch of really wonderful guys, lots of experience, lots of community, some praying, some biblical research, biblical passages cited, some funny stories, lots of helpful hints. For instance, in my case, I asked some folks about Estes Park, Colorado, and they reminded me that there was a national park, the Rocky Mountain National Park, right smack dab there. So I reminded myself to get my national park, not ticket, but card out, which I had bought up in Maine in the Acadia National Park years ago. And a nice lady behind the counter said, hey, you can buy a ticket for one day, or you can buy a pass for life, and buy the pass for life because the price is going up tomorrow. And she wasn't kidding. The price was going up the next day. Every once in a while, God smiles on you and says, hey, guess what, kids? You can actually get a discount if you act right now. Further research. So go out, form a community, get together, share wisdom, and extend your life expectancy and your health expectancy, and just enjoy being alive, being healthy, wealthy, and wise at every age and every phase. This is John Joseph Checki Jr., co-founder of Checki Financial. Looking forward to seeing you sooner and later. And we help people have fun and still have money. You can't remember anything else. We help people have more money and pay less taxes.